good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us this week. We're an hour early this week because our my partner in crime is trying to stay sane. Is going to
Yep.
be on the news in an hour. So why don't you tell us what's going on with this news channel you're going on and what you're going to talk about?
Yeah, first of all, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. So, this is something very good to represent ourselves as ex Muslims, atheists, and independent um, perspectives over multiple issues, especially with something related to the religion and how it causes the social issues and all. So, right now in India, we are facing an issue that is something related to the Waqf Amendment Act, or that's a new law that which came into being after the parliament passed it. And it's a, you know what a waqf is. Waqf is something like a Muslim, out of his belief, he can donate his properties, like his land or some buildings or something, to the way of God, that is Allah, and that is being something which is related to their belief system. But in India, you have an institutionalized waqf, um, which means the state is giving you some protection to that kind of a ritual. So this is something which is unique to Islam and which is unique to India, because we have the biggest religion here, that is the Hindu religion, and we don't have such a body which is something closely powerful enough as the Waqf is. That is, the biggest problem with the Waqf is you have a body here, and if the Waqf points out a place or some building or some land, and it claims that this is the Waqf property, now it becomes the duty or the responsibility of the person or the government to prove that it's not Waqf. It's not the other way around. So that's one of the biggest problems with this bill, which was enacted by the non-BJP governments in India. So this government decided to amend this bill so that there were a lot of complaints and even court cases and other things which is going on in the country related to this rule, where people were affected by this Waqf Act. So they decided to amend it by repealing some of its powers. Like, one is this, and the second one is, we have a India is a secular country, and we have a legal system here which is above religion and all. But when it comes to Waqf, there's a problem. That is, there's a tribunal for this Waqf, and if you have a complaint related to this, that will be discussed, and that the decision of the tribunal will be final in this case. This is the problem with the Waqf. And in that case, the person cannot go to the Supreme Court or the high courts and fight the law. So that was the biggest issue. And even this amendment repealed that provision in that Waqf Act, and the people are now easy to go to the courts and all. So this is the biggest issue with this Waqf Act, and the amendment was made in that way so that people will get their due share of their basic rights. So now, after this, some of the Islamic factions in our country, they decided to fight this. They decided to claim that, or they decided to say that it is something that is directed against the minorities, that is the Hindu majorities directing something against the Muslim minority. So they decided to fight it on the streets. And now in West Bengal, the state which is bordering with Bangladesh, it is notorious for many Islamist factions, terrorist organizations, and many other groups like that. Now they decided to come to the streets, and on one last Friday, they initiated a riot in which a lot of properties got distracted. Hindus getting targeted. They are now fleeing from their home, from their land, and they are moving to other places, and they are now running around. And even 3-4 people have already got killed in this riot. So this is what is going on here. And one place was initially affected, and after that it was Murshidabad, and after that another place is now under fire. So this is going on there. Similarly, we had some attempts to create such commotion and ruckus in my state where I live here, that is Kerala. And fortunately, the people here, especially the Muslims here, and some of the organizations, political organization which represents the Muslims here, they were vigilant enough to not to side with the terrorist aligning Muslim bodies like the Popular Front and their some of their sister groups like SDP and other groups. So they decided to stay away from that. And my state is still safe, and I'm not sure for how many days this will last here, but this is the reality here. And when you say that the Hindu bodies, they have some bodies like the Wakaf, some rules like that, and they can do some things like that, and that's totally rubbish because they don't have such a rule. Wakaf Act is something unique to the Muslim bodies here, and though we have Hindu organizations and they have the rights to hold their properties and deal with that, they don't have the unique abilities like or the powers which is something to claim other people's land or to stop going for the appeal to the higher courts and all. That's not there with the other religions. It's only for the Muslims and Islam. So this is the particular issue going on here. So this is the reality and this is the issue here. And the problem that we are trying to discuss here is that this whole issue is not duly discussed. It's not duly addressed, and the people, especially the liberals, the so-called liberal seculars and all, they are all silent because here the victims are the Hindus and the perpetrators are the Muslims. And this all happens despite that they claim that they are the minority. That's the problem here. So being a minority, Muslims in India, there are some of the organizations from them who are violent in nature and who are disrespectful to the democratic and secular values that India upholds. They are turning on to rioters onto the streets, and they are now causing the problem in our country. This is not addressed. And if this was the other way around, like if this was caused by some of the fringe elements from the Hindu groups, it will be overrepresented and it will be completely exaggerated, and things will be like they are trying to convert India into Hindu Rashtra and the Muslims are beaten and all such nonsense will come out. And I'm pretty sure that of all these years, you might have heard about a lot of issues like that. And I would say only 10% or maybe 5% of that is true. And the exact thing is not always represented. And the cause for such things are never addressed or made public. But in this case, what you hear is only maybe 0.1% or maybe 2%. The majority of that, maybe 99% of the reality is not addressed or is not made public. And no international media will talk about this, claiming that the Hindus are getting attacked. It's the real story that is going on here. Hindus are fleeing from their homes. This is what is going on here. So I'm not talking about Hindus and Muslims and they are rioting each other. It's all about the groups within them who claims that they are representing the religious bodies and their community, and they are now causing trouble in a way that it's affecting the whole of the community, even though they are not interested in all these issues. Like not all the states, not all the Muslims are saying that Waqf amendment is going to affect them. It's not said that way, but they wanted to make it that way, appear that way, that it's affecting the whole of the Muslims. So this is the hypocrisy that we see here. Even though it's not affecting them, they want to make it's like they are scare tactics are used here to say that Muslims are targeted, the Muslim genocide is going on, and all these things are what is happening here. So I just wanted to make sure that people have a good discussion over this, and we are called into news debates and all so that we can discuss all these, representing ourselves as the proponents of atheism, like ex-Muslims and all. So we go there and we discuss all this and we fight against the barbarism, the fascism, the jihadist fascism. That's what we are seeing here, and how they use this victimhood as a weapon against the people and against the system which tries to protect democracy and secularism. And in fact, this amendment of this Waqf Act is something like to protect the secular property rights, the civil rights of the citizens, not particularly against any particular religious groups or not. Even because the original Waqf Act is affecting even the common Muslims. So when the amendment is made, everyone will be benefited. And that's one reason why I always say that I'm for the amendment. So I just wanted to make sure that it's heard loud and clear. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Oh, good luck when you're on the news. So, all
Sure.
right. So, moving on to some other stories this week. So, last week we talked about the issue of the Israelis opened fire, killed, and then buried the evidence of the medics. One of those medics is still missing.
Mhm.
And then in the past week, Israel bombed another hospital. And then they've also announced that they're going to uh, basically make a huge push into Gaza. So that situation continues to unravel. No end in sight currently. So I guess just wait and see what happens. Apparently, Trump is still pushing for deals without Netanyahu, which is pissing off Netanyahu. But fuck him. So anyway,
Yeah,
the
but
Catholic, yeah,
yeah, but recently Egypt came up with a ceasefire agreement plan, and Hamas has rejected it. Have you gone through that?
no, no,
Yeah, again
no.
that happened. So, and with regards to the bombing of the hospital, Al Ahli Hospital, a portion of that hospital was targeted because there was some information regarding a military base that was running in this hospital, and it was already it was known because in 2023 itself this was once bombed, and not by IDF, but they themselves tried to fire a rocket from that premise, and it backfired, or it it got returned, and that was causing some sort of damage to the hospital, and that was one issue at the same hospital that happened in 2023. So this
Okay,
is the same
but
place where, yeah.
Israel has commandos. Can they not send commandos into a hospital instead of bombing the fucking thing with all the patients that are in there? Does that not
No, no,
strike you
no.
as a humanitarian
It's yeah, it's
disaster?
not. Yeah, it's not like they bombed all of a sudden. They gave almost 1 hour to evacuate because
It's
this is
still a hospital. It's the only hospital left in that area. Why
no,
wouldn't
no,
they
no.
send in
If that is
commandos?
the case, then how come the people, the Hamas, dig tunnels and operate a military base, store weapons and all? How? Why nobody is
Well,
asking about that?
the problem is
That's not
there's so
permissible.
much there's
We
propaganda
should
on
ask
both
that
sides.
first
We're never going to know
instead
what the
of
real truth
asking
is.
about why bomb like that because they operate it from there, because even in the Geneva Convention it's mentioned, like if you operate hospitals or some sort of civilian buildings for these kind of purposes, there's no leniency in that is required, because you can target that sites that's mentioned in the Geneva Convention. So it's totally based on the rules that they are acting. So it's giving Israel more reasons to bomb, in fact. So why don't you just ask these people not to store your weapons or to operate from the civilian infrastructure? So this is what exactly what we wanted to hear from
Well,
them,
we
but
don't
we are
know.
not seeing
Like,
that.
there's so much propaganda on both sides. I'm sure both sides are
It's
lying
not
their fucking
propaganda.
asses
That's what
off.
I said. Like 2023, they fired a rocket from this premise and it backfired, and it caused a fire in this hospital, in the same hospital. So it was already proven, and even they admitted it. It was their fire, because they initially they claimed that it was it was a rocket from the IDF, and finally they themselves had to admit that it was their misfire. So it once happened in already once it happened once. So
Yeah.
this is not a what do you say, a random bombing or something like that. So of course we have the liberty to question Israel, and we have the right to question that, and we should do that. But that doesn't mean that we should permit Hamas to operate within civilian infrastructure, especially hospitals. Come on,
Yeah.
what is
So
that?
how about a surgical precision strike, not a blanket bombing? And the only hospital left. That
It was
is
not
fucking
it
human.
In fact, it was a precision strike, and not the whole hospital was burned. It's a portion of the hospital that was targeted, where the base was operational. And the base doesn't mean that it's in a room; it is in a whole floor below the basement. So, what's that? Precision means maybe 25,000 square meters. It's a huge portion when compared to the whole of the building. So this happens. See. It sounds like we are accepting the firing, and we are accepting the bombing actions. No, we have to question why they use the hospital building as a military base. That's the problem here. We need to address that. The international community need to ask that. We are not hearing that question. That's the problem here. Okay.
Yeah, people have it.
No one. They never ask. They never say that free the hostages. Have you ever seen that? We even saw some of the Gazans finally saying that. Have you ever seen a protest in the West or in the East where the protesters are fighting against Israel and they are calling the Hamas or the Palestinians to release the hostages? I haven't seen anyone say the same thing like free the hostages, end the war. That's the ideal solution because they are now saying river to sea, Palestine will be free. That means a genocide. You're calling for the genocide of the Jews. How
And
come
what's
you can
Israel
accept
doing to
that?
the Gazans? That's not a genocide. The
That's
UN
another thing.
said it
Like
was.
you have to prove that at least 50,000 of the Gazans are killed because they themselves are deleting the names and the numbers from the list. So let them complete the listing. They are coming up there, but they are dealing with the duplications and they are dealing with numbering, misnaming, and other things. So they have to deal with that first. They have to represent the real mathematics, the real numbers. Let them complete that. Then we can question Israel. I'm ready. I'm waiting for that. Okay.
Yeah. Well, there needs to be an overall investigation, but that's not going to
Absolutely.
be forthcoming anytime soon. So
Yeah.
anyway, so in other news, the Gaudi, the architect of the Sagrada Familia, the fancy church in Barcelona, the church has now put Gaudi on the path to sainthood. Now, anybody who knows Catholic rules would understand that to be considered for a saint, you had to have uh, been the source of two miracles, which we know is bullshit. Number one, and two, how does an architect cause any miracles? So it's apparently because he's the church has inspired a handful of people to convert to Catholicism. So in more of the Catholic Church just making bullshit up as they go along, they've now put Gaudi on the path to sainthood because apparently he's um, caused some miracles to occur. So which just more Catholic bullshit. So anything
Okay.
on your side?
Um, no, we'll catch up next week mostly, so we can
Okay.
find more of them. There are some,
Okay.
but let's wait for more clarity.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Well, good luck on the news tonight, and
Yeah.
we'll see everybody next week. All right.
Sure.
All
Thank you
right.
so much. Hi.
Take care,
Bye,
everybody.
everyone.
All right. Bye bye.
Yes. Bye bye.